Genkidama. Genkidama, also known as the Spirit Bomb, is one of the most iconic and awe-inspiring techniques in the entire Dragon Ball series. This is not a move used casually, it only appears when Goku is pushed to the brink, facing enemies whose power far surpasses normal limits. The technique requires Goku to gather energy from every living thing around him, humans, animals, plants, and even the very environment itself, forming a massive sphere of energy. This colossal ball holds enough destructive force to wipe out entire planets. What makes the Genkidama unique is that it cannot be mastered through physical training alone. To wield it, the user must possess a completely pure heart. Without such purity, the refined energy will backfire, causing immense harm or even instant death to the one who attempts to use it. The larger the Spirit Bomb, the more energy it contains, and the more catastrophic its destructive power becomes. Yet this also reveals its greatest weakness: the long charging time. While gathering energy, the user is nearly immobile, unable to move or defend, leaving themselves completely vulnerable to enemy attacks. That is why every time Goku prepares the Genkidama, it becomes a moment of life and death. His allies are forced to risk everything, blocking attacks, stalling for time, even sacrificing themselves just to protect the single chance that could save everyone. Fukuma Mizushi. Ryoiki Tenkai. Fukuma Mizushi. Sukuna's domain expansion is not just a technique, it is the ultimate proof of why he is called the King of Curses. What makes this domain so terrifying is not raw power alone, but the way it completely shatters the very rules of Jujutsu sorcery. Normally, when a sorcerer deploys a domain expansion, they construct a sealed barrier, a closed space where their techniques are guaranteed to hit. But Sukuna defies that law entirely. Fukuma Mizushi does not create a barrier at all. Instead, it projects his innate domain directly onto reality, turning the surrounding world itself into his personal killing ground. Author Gege Akutami once compared Fukuma Mizushi to painting a masterpiece in midair, a divine act that captures just how refined, intricate, and terrifying this ability truly island. Once Fukuma Mizushi takes over, Sukuna's techniques cleave and dismantle rain down endlessly across the entire area, like an invisible storm of blades. There is no pause, no escape, no chance to defend. Everything within range is mercilessly cut apart. This overwhelming force is what allowed Sukuna to stand against, and even temporarily nullify Gojo Satoru's Unlimited Void, a technique once believed to be absolutely invincible. It is no exaggeration to say that Fukuma Mizushi stands as one of the deadliest abilities in all of Jujutsu Kaisen, a barrierless domain of pure destruction wielded only by the one who reigns above all, Ryomen Sukuna. Shinra Tensei. Shinra Tensei, also known as Almighty Push, is one of the most iconic and awe-inspiring techniques in the entire Naruto universe, a move whose very name sends chills down the spine, especially after the moment it leveled the Hidden Leaf Village in mere seconds. At its core, Shinra Tensei is a gravity manipulation technique belonging to the Deva Path, one of the 6 abilities granted by the Rinnegan. By concentrating chakra and then releasing it, the user generates an invisible repulsive force from their own body, repelling or obliterating everything within its range. No hand seals are required. No complex movements, just a simple gesture, or even a mere thought, is enough to unleash a blast powerful enough to blow away entire armies, crush buildings, and bring down an entire region in an instant. The unique limitation of this ability lies in its cooldown. After every use, the Deva Path requires a certain interval before it can be activated again. For smaller scale applications, the delay is about 5 seconds. But when used on a massive scale, like the time Pain annihilated the entire Hidden Leaf Village, the cooldown extends significantly, forcing the user to calculate the perfect moment to strike. The scene where Shinra Tensei destroyed Konoha stands as one of the most shocking and iconic moments in the entire series. With a single push, the entire village was flattened, every building demolished, the earth split open, and a colossal crater left behind as if a god had descended and delivered divine punishment. Shinra Tensei is not merely a tool for one-on-one combat. It is a weapon of mass destruction, capable of completely reshaping the battlefield. And it is precisely this technique that cemented Pain, wielder of the Rinnegan, as one of the most terrifying and unforgettable antagonists in the world of shinobi. No Santoryu. The three-sword style, Santoryu, has long been the iconic mark of Roronoa Zoro, but when it evolved into the King of Hell three-sword style, every previous standard of power was broken. This was the turning point that pushed Zoro into the realm of legends. The technique, King of Hell three-sword style, 103 Mercy's Drive Agon Damnation stands as one of Zoro's most devastating moves, not only for its destructive might, but because it directly merges with Conqueror's Haki, a power possessed only by the chosen few. Built on the foundation of his classic Flying Dragon Blaze, this new version is a superior evolution in both spectacle and effect. In his battle against King on Onigashima, Zoro leapt into the sky, poured his Conqueror's Haki into all three swords, and unleashed a ferocious slash. The strike not only created a massive flying wave, but also cut straight through King's attack, taking the form of a colossal flaming dragon, radiating heat and pressure said to surpass even magma. This marked the first time Zoro fully infused Conqueror's Haki into a physical attack, breaking through the boundary of an ordinary swordsman and moving closer to the title of the King of Hell. According to the latest revelations in One Piece, only Conqueror's Haki can inflict true damage on entities such as the Holy Knights or even the Gorosei. And the fact that Zoro can channel this rare force into his three-sword style cements him as one of the strongest warriors alive, firmly stepping into the top tier. The grandeur of 103 Mercy's Drive Agon Damnation lies not only in its breathtaking visuals, but in its tactical value. It was the decisive weapon in the Battle of Onigashima, and will be the blade Zoro carries into the deadly conflicts of the New World, where only true strength determines whose justice will reign. The Rumbling. The Rumbling is the ultimate embodiment of the Titan's absolute power. Once nothing more than an empty threat, it became a true nightmare in the hands of Eren Yeager. The terror of the Rumbling does not lie in complex technique, but in the sheer scale of its destruction. Millions of colossal titans once dormant within the three walls of Paradise Island march forward in unison, shaking the earth with every step. The sound echoes like drums of judgment, and each step is a death sentence. The entire world trembles in fear. To trigger the Rumbling, the wielder of the founding titan must come into contact with royal blood. In Eren's case, though he was not of royal lineage himself, he shattered this limitation by connecting with Zeke, a direct descendant of the Fritz bloodline. Through this link, Eren fully unleashed the founding titan's power, took control of the colossal titans, and initiated a global extermination. In essence, the Rumbling was first conceived by King Karl Fritz as a deterrent. He sealed countless colossal titans within the walls and proclaimed that he would release them if the outside world ever dared to invade Paradis. Yet Eren transformed that long-standing warning into grim reality. He did not act out of a hunger for power. He acted out of desperation, driven by the belief that only by erasing the outside world could the people of Paradis survive. Once the Rumbling began, colossal titans, each towering dozens of meters high, trampled entire cities, flattened villages, crushed humanity, destroyed architecture, and even reshaped the very landscape. Unlike a conventional war, this was a deliberate genocide on a global scale. According to the story, approximately 80% of the world's population was annihilated as the Rumbling advanced. Whether one agrees with it or not, this reveals a brutal truth. Absolute power always comes hand in hand with absolute loneliness. In the moment Eren unleashed the Rumbling, he was no longer just a boy from Shiganshina. He became the embodiment of despair, of centuries of conflict, and of a world with no path to return. Decay. Decay, the signature quirk of Tamura, Shigaraki was already terrifying from the moment it first appeared. But after his quirk awakened, it became something far deadlier, a plague-like force, spreading like an unstoppable tsunami. Before awakening, Shigaraki needed to place all 5 fingers on his target to activate Decay. If even one finger was missing, the quirk would not trigger. Once full contact was made, the process of disintegration would begin at the point of touch, rapidly spreading through the victim's body or object, reducing everything to crumbling dust within seconds. But everything changed after the battle with the Paranormal Liberation Front. With his quirk fully awakened, Decay no longer required full contact. Now, even a single touch could unleash a massive wave of destruction, spreading across any surface, traveling through walls, across the ground, and wiping out entire city blocks in an instant. The process of disintegration has become virtually unstoppable. It does not just destroy matter, it spreads terror itself, a living nightmare devouring everything in sight. Buildings, roads, infrastructure, people, everything is reduced to dust within seconds once Decay is released. This evolution elevated Shigaraki from a dangerous villain into a catastrophic threat on a national scale. No longer a figure lurking in the shadows, he has become a symbol of chaos, a force of total destruction capable of bringing down the entire pro-hero society with nothing more than a single touch. Explosion. Explosion in the world of Mob Psycho 100 is not merely a combat technique, it is the ultimate peak of repressed emotion, the awakening of pure psychic energy when the human spirit breaks past the limits of control. For Shigeo Mob Kageyama, explosion is not something he can deliberately trigger at will. It is the result of bottling up emotions for too long, until everything reaches 100% and then erupts like an unstoppable psychic storm. When Mob enters this state, his body radiates an intense light, a psychic aura expanding outward to engulf his surroundings. His expression becomes empty and cold, as if Mob himself no longer exists. This is the moment when suppressed emotions transform into pure energy, surpassing every boundary of both body and mind. What makes Explosion unique is that Mob does not willingly use it. Instead, it is a natural reaction when emotions, whether negative like anger, fear, and grief, or positive like compassion and joy, accumulate beyond the point of control. When the meter hits 100%, or when his loved ones face overwhelming danger, Explosion activates automatically. Later on, Mob gradually learns how to trigger the 100% state based on individual emotions, but at the beginning, this power was completely uncontrollable. In Explosion, Mob's psychic powers are amplified to a supernatural scale. He can generate massive energy blasts, warp space, destroy structures and objects, and even manipulate the minds of others. Evil spirits and other espers alike become helpless before Mob's raw might when he loses consciousness and acts purely on instinct. What makes this state truly terrifying is not just the near-infinite level of power, but the fact that Mob, in that moment, is no longer the kind-hearted boy we know. He becomes something beyond human, a living psychic storm, driven by overwhelming emotions, sweeping away everything in its path. Time acceleration. Time acceleration, the ability to speed up the flow of time, is the final stage in Enrico Pucci's plan to attain heaven, a vision inherited directly from Dio. This power reaches its divine pinnacle through his final stand, Made in Heaven. What makes Made in Heaven a godlike ability is its cosmic scale. Rather than affecting a small area, Pucci accelerates time across the entire universe. Everything from the movement of celestial bodies, the erosion of matter, to the rise and fall of all creation occurs at an incomprehensible speed. The world spirals into chaos and collapse, and yet Pucci alone continues to move freely, untouched, in a reality that's tearing itself apart. Once Made in Heaven is activated, the acceleration is constant and irreversible unless Pucci himself is killed or the stand is destroyed. In this state, he becomes the fastest being in the universe. So fast, in fact, that every other opponent, including Jotaro's Star Platinum, which can stop time, is rendered relatively motionless. The legendary 5-second time stop becomes a meaningless speck compared to the raging speed of an accelerating universe. But Made in Heaven isn't just about gaining a combat advantage. It holds the power to accelerate the collapse of the entire cosmos, bringing it to an inevitable end, and from there, triggering the birth of a new universe. A brand new reality, shaped entirely by Pucci's will and vision. Everything that isn't a living being is worn down and destroyed by the force of time acceleration. Buildings crumble, nature collapses, and the physical world dissolves into oblivion. Meanwhile, Pucci, alone in mastering the flow of this chaos, ascends into something nearly omnipotent. He becomes both destroyer and creator, a cosmic threat of universal proportions. Crimson Moon. Crimson Moon is a fire-based technique that balances sheer destructive power with poetic precision. It is closely tied to Conro, the calm, battle-hardened lieutenant, and the unwavering right hand of Benimaru Shinmon. What defines Crimson Moon is its ruthless efficiency, clean, sharp, and utterly final. Like a samurai's blade, it is a finishing move designed for swift execution. Conro often uses this technique to eliminate the most resilient infernals, those that refuse to go down easily. As a third-generation pyrokinetic, Conro possesses the ability to manipulate flames freely and weaponize them with deadly intent. While the activation mechanics of Crimson Moon aren't as elaborately animated or explained as other fire techniques, its purpose is crystal clear: to concentrate all of his firepower into a single, decisive strike, ending the fight in a single instant. The name Crimson Moon evokes the image of a blazing red moon, symbolizing either a compressed orb of fire or a curved wave of heat launched in a specific shape. It carries with it extreme heat and crushing pressure, enough to incinerate anything in its path. Notably, Conro isn't limited to using only the flames he creates. He's also able to repurpose and reshape pre-existing fire, including those emitted by infernals or other pyrokinetics, turning them into weapons of his own. His composure, years of field experience, and refined control over fire are what allow Conro to execute Crimson Moon with deadly precision. In terms of raw power, it is considered a decisive finishing move, not just destroying the infernal, but symbolically sending it back to hell, ensuring it never returns to cause further harm. Though not accompanied by massive explosions or flashy effects, Crimson Moon is still a fire technique with overwhelming heat and destructive pressure fully capable of obliterating its target in mere seconds. It's this minimalism and terrifying effectiveness that make Crimson Moon one of Conroe's most signature and memorable abilities in the world of Fire Force. Dimension/Equinox. Dimension/Equinox is the ultimate enhanced version of Yami Sukahiro's already iconic technique, Dimension Slash. If the original move was powerful enough to tear through the fabric of real space, then Equinox pushes that power to an entirely new level. At its core, the technique revolves around Yami combining his space-slashing swordsmanship with the advanced control of Mana Zone. Instead of releasing a standard slash, Yami expands his mana control radius to its absolute limit, then concentrates all of it into a single blade. This allows the resulting slash to be not only sharper and more devastating, but also to reach distances far beyond normal range, capable of striking enemies hundreds of meters away, even across gaps where direct contact would normally be impossible. However, such terrifying power comes at a heavy price. Dimension Slash. Equinox consumes a massive amount of mana and requires significantly more casting time and mental focus compared to the original version. In return, a single slash is capable of cutting through entire alternate dimensions. That moment alone proves why Dimension/Equinox is so fearsome. It's not just a powerful attack, it's a tactical weapon that can nullify high-tier spatial magic, something only a handful of mages in the entire Clover Kingdom could hope to accomplish. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos.